Yeah, warning, be careful. Objects in mirror are closer than they actually appear. Hey everybody, welcome to Golden Guys, just like the Golden Girls, just without all that sex appeal we talk about. Well, Knights will be joining us. He's in some traffic where he lives, so that's his situation. DS is here with me. We may or may not get one of the other Estelle Gettys. We don't know. There's some stuff going on, but plenty of Golden Age stuff going on for us to talk about here. One thing, did you get anything? Golden Age, and anything you want to share first? Because actually, you know what? Let's do something else first before I share. I want to check something in the chat. I did see some people in the chat here. Hang on here, Chris Barrett, very good. Dope Comics, nice having you here. Very cool. Hang on, put this on. Alex, the comic writer, very good. Let's do this. Perfect timing. I'm going for my jog. Very good. We good to have you here. Pay attention to where you're going. Brad, good having you here. Chad, nice having you here. And Stream Elements, of course, without you, we wouldn't be here. So everybody, I want to share what you got. I want you to show a book, the one that we just talked about.
The one that nobody wants to buy?
I can't understand this.
I'll show you.
How we doing? See, what I have a piece for you from a guy from Bloomington, Indiana. I'm going to show.
Yeah, it's not a Golden Age book, but
yeah, I want to show it because this book is notoriously a great book to have for a lot of reasons. A, it's first Brother Voodoo, and it starts a whole new storyline for Strange Tales that goes back to the roots of what Strange Tales was. And honestly, if you want to know the speculation in the book, I'm not going to go about speculation. I'm just going to say, yes, he knows Doctor Strange very well, and yes, he knows some of the members of the X-Men and a lot of stuff. So
yeah, I'll tell you though. I mean, I've got this at. I've been trying to sell it. I'm not pushing it hard, but it's out there for $1,000, and nobody's interested in it. That's fine. They're casting a Haitian actor for Doctor Strange 2. It's him, obviously. So whatever, I'll hold it. But I mean, it's a super high grade. It's tough to find this book high. So yeah, I didn't do an unboxing on my channel with it, but I got this recently. And the only other stuff I've gotten recently is like bronze and silver, a couple copper, like late bronze stuff. And I have a stacks of stuff here. I'm just trying to clean and press and get out to CGC and get them back and sell them. And right now I'm just trying to build up the budget. But man, there is a ton of good Golden Age stuff in Heritage, in Comic Link, Comic coming up. There's tons of stuff out there right now. So I'm just biding my time and saving, working on my budget. So
yep, there's a Superboy I got my eye on, and a Wonder Woman I got my eye on really hard. Two really good comics right there. Really that are not hard to find, but hard to find in the exact way I want it, and it looks good. That's definitely absolutely true. I hit a small mini con this weekend with a Chamber of Chills 5 in one hand, and I walked out. The Baker book, Diary Secrets, number 26. Lewis has it right now. I want to get that pressed. I want to get that pressed for sure. I would say safely, if it's CGC, probably a 4.5, 4.5, and that is a good grade for that book. It is only 6 on the census of a Matt Baker cover, romance cover. It's one of the hardest ones. And before I bought it, I checked with a bunch of Matt Baker guys that's probably watching right now, and they all said the same thing. I'd pay that for that book, and I picked up that with a bunch of other stuff for that book, traded in there. So I will show that eventually, probably next week. That, and I have a Lou Fine book as well, maybe coming in as well. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, I want more Lou Fine stuff. I have that Planet Comics 1. I mean, that's a massive sci-fi Lou Fine grail anyway, but I really want to get some more Lou Fine stuff. But man, there's not a lot out there, and when it comes up, it's
you got to go like Wonder World and stuff like that. I mean, That's what we went that route. So I did pick up a lot of Bronze Age stuff, but I just want to share because I do miss this stuff. And one thing the Golden Age doesn't share a lot of is these big old bad boys. I got this for my son. As DS knows, I'm building some for my son, comparing. He likes Superman and Spider-Man, so I kind of did this whole thing with comic covers and stuff like that over here, and then Superman on one side, Spider-Man on the other.
Yeah, that's a good one there. That's one of the more popular ones of those treasures.
Yeah, yeah. The first one is the Wizard of Oz one. I have that one. This, I think, is the second one. Again, it's Stan Lee, Carmine Infantino, the whole deal. I picked up a great Joe Jusko cover. Just shouting that out. This is on Saturday. I was on Swords of Sorcery, which is a great show on the weekends. Talks about Conan, Red Sonjas, and stuff like that. A lot of people. Just a great show on the weekend on Stay Puft's channel, and you got to check out Sean's channel for that. It's just great. This Joe Jusko cover, one of the Golden Age guys right there. But I had to pick up a Buscema cover here, and this is just, I tell everybody that yes, it's First Man Thing. It's also Savage Tales #1, and it is a great. This is a now DS. I might. You pressed your. Did you press your Web of Horror 3?
I did not, but I pressed a Legion of Monsters #1.
#1. Okay, the Frankenstein.
No, that was the first appearance of the what are they called with Ghost Rider and Morbius?
Oh yeah. Oh, the Legion of Monsters one. The one from '76.
Yeah, the Neil Adams cover with Amphibian on the cover. Yeah, I pressed that one, and I'll tell you, it was kind of a pain.
Is that a special edition 32? Something like that. It's one of those. Yeah.
Yeah,
this is a big one
because you can't use a regular backing board in the middle. So what I did, I'll show you what I got, and they work pretty well. I'll do some more, but.
Oh, 7. How are you?
I mean, I didn't use a regular backing board because even the magazine size backing board is just barely big enough. So I actually bought these.
Oh, let me look at that. Oh, okay. Is that good for the magazine sizes?
Yeah, I mean, they're thin. I think I used like 2 of these together in the middle of the book when I pressed it. And then I think I used 1 inside each cover. And then, of course, I put the silicone release paper on each side. But these, I bought 2 packs of these, and I'll use these for pressing magazine size stuff. But I just don't like pressing magazine size stuff because it's a whole different production. I don't know if I'm lazy about it, but I don't buy a lot of magazine stuff. That Web of Horror, I just flat out sent in. And
yeah, that's what I think I'm going to do with this Savage Tales. If I do, it does need a press, but it's been read. I think it really is in nice condition. The gloss is there. I mean, this is first appearance of Man Thing, but I just want to share the great John Buscema drink cover there. Before we go on to the Golden Age book I found while I was there, and big surprise, there was an elephant on it. But it is the first Tarzan with an elephant. This is the very first one. So this is Tarzan #5. First what?
Is that Dell?
No, yes, this is Dell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's got good colors on it too.
Yeah, for the 40s, yeah. Early 40s book, yeah. It's good. I mean, it's done by Webb, so it's the standard guy who did all the early Tarzans. So that was good. I did pick up this. I wanted to share it here. My logo was done by a great Bloomington, Indiana artist, Mike Werner. You check him out on Instagram. I'll just show it here so you can see. This is a palette, acrylic palette on board. Is the style here. Hang on. And it is the logo there. You can see the thickness of the Infinity Gauntlet right there. And you can see it there, and it's gold, and it really shines really well. Yeah, great job. And Bloomington, Indiana, and I plan to definitely have him on a new show that I'm working with Carson C. Woodard on right now. We're finalizing some stuff here. But let's bring everybody together again. Knights is here. Right by Fence 3. So is that
I did pick up one other thing, but I don't have it yet, but I'm really excited about it, and it's not worth anything, but I just can't wait to get it, is the hardcover that collects the House of Secrets 92 and a couple other things, and then Swamp Thing 1 through 13, I think. It's a hardcover, and yeah, I'm just excited to get this so I can read all this early Swamp Thing Bernie Wrightson issues. So yeah, that's cool.
Enjoy it. It's absolutely fantastic, fun to read. It's one of my favorite things. On those lines, I am waiting for one thing very soon. I did pull the trigger on something, and it did. It's the only thing that's missing from the Wrightson back wall, because this will be FEMA over here. Is a Wrightson piece, so that will be joining us soon.
Awesome. Oh, I got the grade on this today.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And
well, this had the page that was tore in half, and the page part was there, but it was completely detached. So I taped it back in with archival tape very neatly. Did a good job. Sent it to CGC, and they gave me a 4.0. So I don't know. I'm going to call them though, but it's not going to change. I just want to hear their thoughts on it. But the grader's notes, it's clear that the taping of that page killed the grade on this. That's like the main thing in the grader's notes. And
tape that interior cover.
Grade these things as if the tape's not there, and then just note the tape on the label. And it was a clean tear. It's neatly and cleanly taped back together. So I think they should grade it as if the page is intact and just note the tape on the label. That's my understanding of how they do it. But they killed the grade on that thing. It was a 5.0 here from CBCS when the page was not even attached. It was just loose in there. So I think attached it should be even higher than a 5. And this is a 5 with a check mark too. So I don't know, a little disappointing, but still, there's only 8 on the census. And,
yeah, I was gonna say I mean, it's a 4.0. I mean, it happens. We've all cracked them and done it. But the one thing I want to stress is I think I said there wasn't that many of those on the census in the first place. So I think you're in a win-win situation that you added another to the CGC census at least.
What if you sent it in before cracking it? Would they have kept it at the same?
Well, you mean if I just sent it in for like crossover grading?
Yeah.
Well, I think they would have graded it, but the page would have been completely detached. So I don't know. I think that would be worse. I mean, I did it basically for the health of the book, sort of. That page tore and the piece was just. So I attached it back nice and neat with archival tape. And yeah, I mean, Brad's saying in the chat, they grade as if there's no tape. I don't know if that means they grade as if the tape's not there and the piece is loose, or if they grade as if the piece is attached the way it is and they just note the tape. But they killed the grade on it for that, and it was a nice looking copy. And I cleaned it and pressed it first too. So, whatever. It's a 4.0. It's still. It'll be the 9th one on the census now, and the highest is 6.0. So it's still a beautiful book. And
it is.
It's blue grade. It's blue. It's universal.
Yeah, it's universal. Yeah.
And did they mention the tape in the grader's notes?
They mentioned it on the label, and they mentioned it in the grader's notes. They did like 2 sentences of grader's notes about the taped page. So that's clearly what it was.
Archival tape or just tape?
They mentioned it was archival tape, yeah. But
See,
they didn't hit me with conservation or resto. It was just straight blue label with a tape note. And I talked to several people that are far more knowledgeable than me, obviously, and they told me archival tape is just tape. So I don't know. I think it should be a little higher, but it's, it is what it is. I think, the page is what it is. I mean, that's what the book is. It's not like I screwed it up it is what it is, and that's what CGC thinks it is. A little different than what CBCS had it. So whatever. I mean, it's an awesome book, and it's rare, and I'm happy to have it. And I don't know.
We'll probably sell more, even though it's a grade lower.
Yeah, I'm not saying they grade the defect as it would be without the tape. So I guess they graded it as if that page was completely separated. And
that's what I was thinking they were doing. Because
so CBCS gave it a 5.0 with that separated. CGC gave it a 4.0. But I think that's I still think that's a little harsh, because if the cover is detached, it's a 4.0. If the centerfold is completely detached, it's you can get a 7.0.
You can get a 7.
And I have just part of half of one page detached, and they gave that a 4. I think that should, it seems harsh for what it is compared to other detachments. Do you know what I mean? That's my thoughts.
What are the other big things listed on the grader's notes?
tanning inside cover, one crease on the top, moderate wear, all four corners. But I mean, they've been saying moderate wear, all four corners. Every book I send in has moderate wear, all four corners. The corners are decent. I mean, it's from 1941. The corners are good. It's a
wartime book.
So,
a pre-war book, for crying out loud, and they're giving you shit. I don't understand it.
well, I mean, if it had a fully detached centerfold, I feel like that's worse than a page that half of it was detached and it's now back on. I feel like the detached centerfold is worse. That's an entire wrap separated from the book. I had half of a page detached from the book, and they dropped it down to as if the cover were detached. I think if that book was fully intact page-wise and the cover was detached, it's a 4.0 because everything else is higher. So I think it was harsh. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with them. I agree with harsh because I mean, if you're saying that there was a 5.0 and all you did was do normal tape, and if they were grading it with the tape not being there, then
And white too. Oof.
Yeah, it was off white to white, which I got the same page designation, off white to white. It's a beautiful copy, and I think it's a 6065. I feel like that detachment, which I now taped back on, but regardless, is a lesser detachment than a cover or a centerfold. But apparently it's equal to a fully detached cover, which is not even close for me as far as the quality of the defect. I feel like a centerfold and cover detached is way worse than that half a page. But whatever, I don't know. That's what I mean, got. It's a little disappointing and surprising.
Would you do it again the same way if you knew?
if you do the centerfold, I mean,
if I knew, I would probably just keep it in the CBCS holder.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what the page looked like because the note on the CBCS says half of 17th page detached. It doesn't say torn. It's kind of an ambiguous note on the CBCS label when I got it. But going back in time, I would keep it because it's a 5.0. A CBCS 5 obviously has more value than a CGC 4. A little bit more. We're still talking, probably ballpark like $2,500 on the book. So whatever.
Yeah.
I think homemade, you always run the risk of you never know what's in there.
Yeah. Well, life is risk, and it doesn't always work out. And I was curious. I wanted to see what was up with the page. I wanted to see if I could fix it. I wanted to check out the book, and I figured worst case scenario, it'll just get back in the slab, in the CGC slab, about the same grade. So it's a risk. It's always a risk, but I mean, that's how you get rewards too. So I'm not upset about it. I don't regret my actions, but it's just I didn't do anything to hurt the book. I mean, I didn't. It is what it is, and I think it's better now because the page is attached. So anyway, that's that.
I know there's people who have submitted books that have married pieces and have gotten blue labels. So if you crack that out and then resubmitted it,
I got another book coming back. Listen to this. My Chamber of Chills 19, which I bought a few years ago as a 6.0 restored.
Right.
It had tear seals and cover reinforced, but rubber cement basically. I had the resto removed and sent it in, and they gave it a new note that said staples replaced. And the staples were not replaced. They weren't replaced the first time, and the guy who did the work for me did not replace them. So he's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, well, if they're going to say staples replaced, then just do a full console on the book and put new nice staples in it. Anyway, like actually replace them with error correct staples. Do proper conservation and let's bump the grade up. And he did that. It came back. Now it's a 5.5 conserved.
Okay.
And it doesn't say staples replaced, and he actually did replace them.
I was gonna say I have replaced staples. I had somebody replace staples on a book and had the book come back without any indications. And I have sent in pages of books without staples, especially on bigger bound books. They always say staple replaced. I'm like, no, that's the original staple, dude.
Yeah.
That's how big they were. That's exactly what they were. That's how big they were. You freaking just stick to grading your ASM 300s and don't touch them if fiction house.
Well, and then one thing they do with the Staples Replaced is, and
Especially the one staple books I have, the books with
Yeah.
the staple, they always say staple replaced. How did they replace that? You would
well, and, they don't go on a like beyond a reasonable doubt standard. They go on, they think they're replaced, but they're not sure, but they think they are, so they say it. Well,
look at
I think you gotta have a pretty sure standard if you're going to affect the value of a book like that. You can't just be like, well, we think they're probably replaced. We think they are, so we're putting it on there. I don't know for sure. That hurts the value.
And
They should show pictures.
I see it more because the way I always check staples in a book is two ways. You look at them and you go to the centerfold.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you have to do to just really tell okay, that whole process of looking at the staples is done. And at that point in time, when you're buying a book, I did it this week with the Baker, with the Lewis who was watching. We sat there. I say, show me the centerfold, and I hold it flat. Show me the centerfold, and I have to look at it. And right then and there, you know that nothing's been replaced. Everything else looked good. It was attached. Slight pull on the back cover, a little, not bad. But the same thing, I'm like, okay, because I know how CGC grades some of these Golden Age books. They think things are replaced, and I make sure there's no indications that. The other thing is rust. You can also check there. But I've had books I've sent in with that some of the old fiction houses or some of the old Fox publications or Farrell's had one staple. Often at times I get that been staple replaced, and because it does look like it's replaced, but it's just that's how much it pulls on the book. It's detached. Half the pages are always detached anyway. Those books suck. So
Yeah.
And also big bound Silver Age books, like the big bounds.
Yeah.
Those a lot of times CGC thinks those are replaced, and they are replaced.
They should put pictures. You're paying good money for this stuff, especially if you're doing a walkthrough on like a 5-day book or whatever. Why can't they have a little snapshot of all the little graders notes? I mean, is it that hard?
Well, yeah, I'm trying to find that article about the Sensation One with the grading. I don't know if it was CGC or CBCS, but they were very upset what happened at the grading of a Sensation One, and I really want to know the whole story. But I gotta confirm it first.
They should do with grading and with the notes and the category the book falls in.
That
books, it has a massive effect on value if you say staples replaced, or half point grade can be thousands of dollars even. But if they're looking at books where what they're going to say is going to have such a huge effect on the grade, they should show a little more, have a higher standard of proof for it, and do a little more sort of backup info on it for you, because that Chamber of Chills 19, the difference between a 5.5 conserved and a 4.5 blue is thousands of dollars.
You're gonna save $3,000 to $5,000 right there.
Yeah, I mean, a 4.5 blue is probably a $6,000 book. A 5.5 conserved, I don't know. I hope it's a $5,000 book, but I mean, it could be a couple grand difference because of. And I would, it makes a huge difference when you say staples replaced the first time, and then they switch it and it's not there. Like, I don't want to keep messing with the book, so it is what it is.
And it costs money to get it regraded.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's a risk if you crack it out. There's risks from cracking books. I mean, it's not the easiest thing in the world to get a book out of an inner well that's in nice shape or has old sort of.
Well, a great MLG in any grade. Great call, Brad. That's exactly.
And you don't know what's going to happen when you open it.
Yeah, right.
One thing I do is if I'm sending in a book that's low grade and over, a K, 1K or so, I always take a video or pictures of everything.
Nice.
Inside, because I don't know, if they say some weird thing, you could be like, Jesus, I don't want to get the reholder again, but I want to tell the people, hey, here's a picture, if I'm selling it, here's a picture of, I don't agree with it. Look for yourself. This is the, and you can't prove that, whatever, but at least you have that.
What did you send in? I remember you sent something in came back with the green label. It was a great book, though. It was
Well, there was
Wonder
one Woman that they
Wonder
messed,
Woman. Yeah,
but it was just the holder was messed up.
the
you know?
holder was messed up. Okay, that was that. The holder was messed up. I
There's
remember
like a piece of
quality
shard
control. Yeah,
in the
that's
middle of it.
talking about quality control, and there was none. And yeah, that's another thing. That's a whole show on its own.
Yeah, and they
Quality-
don't want to respect your time. You know,
No.
you pay the money for the fast shipping and all this,
and
and
that's
then they want you to be all slow sending it back, and then they'll be all slow sending it back to you. It's like,
well, now you can help that process by purchasing from them free box. I mean, not free boxes. Purchasing from them boxes that they will send you on to pack for them. They will sell you boxes for twice as much as you'd find anywhere else, but they have the CGC logo on them. But there is a discussion out there that I'm just going to throw it out there. Do they know at the greater places which boxes did they pay for? The answer is probably no, and nor would anybody care. But there's always going to be that speculation in your head. Oh, I'll buy these because I'll get a better grade because they'll see it coming from CGC.
do they send the packaging like the one rubber band and one little wrap?
Nope. They send you this whole thing to
Like
send
three?
you really good, but then they'll ship them back to you with that nice little, that bulletproof poly bags. These things are bulletproof. You can
I
wear
don't have too many complaints about CGC. I mean,
It's
overall, it's good.
coronavirus right here.
We can nitpick on it, but I mean, overall, they do a decent job. The Newton rings,
Yeah, we do. Yeah, the new rings.
those have been much improved. And
Way better, yeah,
Oh, that's good.
yeah. I've
How
still
did they improve that? Do you think?
why is it improved?
Yeah, how did they?
Well, I'll tell you, this is just my thoughts from my own subjective view of it. But they put out that they were getting a lot of flack about Newton rings anyway. They put out that video on their YouTube channel,
Yeah.
and it got nothing but negative. I ranted on a comment.
it was a good one too.
A whole bunch of people went nuts on the comments on that video. I posted on my Instagram. It came up on the CGC boards discussion about there's a whole Newton rings thread, and they got a lot of negative feedback on that. Within like 2 or 3 days, they pulled that video down, and I noticed at that point the Newton rings subsided significantly. And I think what they're doing is they're just using a little bigger of a slab so that there's room between the new. And you notice some of the inner wells are a little loose now. That doesn't bother me because I'm not shaking them around. I mean, it's fine with me if it's a little loose if there's no Newton rings. So I think that had something to do with it. They're aware of the problem, but they really caught a lot of flack for that video they did.
Well, I didn't know they improved that, so that's really good.
Yeah. So one of the things, what did we want to go over? Oh, kind of like Golden Age on a budget, kind of like a joke thing. It really is up to you. But somebody did ask a question one time. Says, if I was going to get in the Golden Age and I didn't want to spend no more than 100 on a book, and I'm interested in this, can I do it? And the answer is this. What if this matters? If you're interested in Westerns, romance, picture covers, Dale Evans cartoons, jungles, yes, elephants, probably not all of them, but a lot of them. Pre-code horror, probably not.
You can get a fair number of pre-code horror.
You can get a lot of good ones. You can get crimes for sure. You can get a lot of Lev Gleason. That's where I was going to talk about publishers right now with you guys. Collecting on a budget has become something where I've noticed fiction house collectors, timely collectors, which let's just put them in a category. I'm just talking not pre-code horror because that's a whole genre. I'm talking just publishers. So, in my opinion, the number one publisher, if you're going to collect comics, the most valuable comics, it's got to be Timely, just because of Timely or DC, either one of those two of the Golden Age. And we're going to add those two right there because
I mean, it's not necessarily true, but I guess as an average,
as an average book,
Timelys and the DC are the biggest two money categories for Golden Age. Probably DC keys first, and then Timely second. Those are obviously the two.
But there's plenty of DCs that are cheap.
Right, which is where
uh,
while those are the keys, it's not like we're telling you, like when I say Lev Gleason's are cheap crime books, that's not saying crime books by Atlas are expensive. They're not. Some Atlas, actually Atlas I consider to be the intermediary golden age collecting.
yeah.
And I wanted to kind of talk about a little bit of like this. If you're a beginner and if you were going to think of something from a beginner point of view, you can absolutely start with Timely. You can go out and go find yourself a Marvel one and start that way. Go ahead. If you can do it, do it. Or buy a Suspense or a Schomburg or a Nidor or whatever. You know, you can buy whatever you want.
You can get Timelies, like the funny.
Yeah,
know.
I was going to say there's famous funnies. There's, you know, you can get some Marvel, you can get some MLJ books. Each publisher has their own. But if you're going to start, the one thing I would say is that the intermediate, you've got an entire group of Atlas books, but there are certain publishers that are less by nature. But if we could, we'll share with everybody what would be collecting on a budget if you wanted to have somebody who was just starting out. What would you, with a well-known artist and everything, I would go with? I'd have to say number one would be, I'm just saying Lev Gleason out there because Charles Biro artwork is phenomenal. It's well known, it's very recognizable, and it's very unique. And I showed somebody this and said, wow, I really like that style. I says, well, there's a whole world of that book that aren't that expensive, but they're not dirt cheap either. I mean, that's one example. If anybody else wants to.
Well, you could do like, for instance, you could say you love Timely World War II covers, but you know, and you start researching and you're like, Schomburg's, those are expensive. And then you're like, Schomburg's with a Captain America on it, even more expensive. But then, you know, with the Human Torch, it's less. And then you realize like, well, I could get a World War II cover, maybe not Timely, but maybe Schomburg, or maybe No Hero or whatever, but you could still find, there's plenty of them out there that are, you know, approaching, maybe not. I mean, you could probably find something for $100, maybe. It's tough.
You can find anything you want.
Criteria for how good of a grade you want and how much you're willing to hunt for stuff.
And what it is you want to collect. And that's what Chris Barrett put in there. Collect what you love within your budget. We're not talking about flipping books at all at this point. Now we're going to talk about, you know, Me with Elephants, shark covers for DS, and Timely gorgeousness for Knights or Japanese.
I did collect Timelies on a budget when I first started. You know,
yeah. I mean,
I bought so many incomplete books because to me it was about if I could get a Timely for like $200 or less. I was like, as long as you know the cover looked cool, I would do it. And then slowly, that just became kind of impossible.
Yeah, there's things I think that really help if you're collecting Golden Age on a budget. And Tech 31 is saying, you know, find your niche. Once you figure out what you like, I think don't be afraid to buy raw books because everybody wants the slab. Slab Golden Age stuff is freaking expensive. It doesn't matter almost what it is. If it's slabbed, it's pricey. Don't be afraid to buy raw books in low grade and be patient because if you're collecting Golden Age, no matter if it's on a budget or not, patience is key. It's not like bronze books where you just pick the grade and the book and you go find it within 5 hours and you wheel a deal and get it. You don't be afraid to buy raws. Be patient. Wait for them to come up, and you know, go for entry level, low grade stuff with intact covers, essentially, or the key story intact if it's a historically important storybook. And yeah, I think don't be afraid of raw books. When I first got into Golden Age, I was buying raw books in low grade off of eBay, and they were like 1/8, 2/0 raw, and they were dirt cheap compared to other stuff. And you know, sometimes there'd be chunk missing off a page, or sometimes the back cover would be destroyed. But you can find a decent looking front cover of a low grade raw book, and if you're patient, those come up, and they're not in high demand. You have plenty of time. Just bide your time. Keep an eye out. When you find a nice, presentable, low-grade raw book, don't be afraid to buy it. And, you know, there's risk with everything. We were talking about before the show, JD and me.
Yeah.
Everything's risk. Don't be afraid to take some risks. You know, try to make a most informed decision you can. Be patient. Buy low-grade raw stuff. and
Yeah.
you get some quality stuff. And sometimes you get a book and you'd be like, wow, this is way better than I thought I was going to get.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get one and you're like, man, it's okay for now, but this is definitely not a keeper level. But you guys, it's hit and miss, but raw, low grade stuff with presentable covers is really good to get into to start.
Yep. And that's a great point. And one of the things that, like, I started doing the Golden Age exactly the same way these guys did. I pretty much said, oh my God, that's an old book. I'm interested in that. And so I looked at that at a garage sale or whatnot. I was buying my normal stuff. But when it came down to it, what I've done is I don't really slab as many of my Golden Age books. I just don't find the value in it yet or the desire to. But there are some that I do. And when I do slab it, and sometimes I immediately, then that's a reason for me to get rid of it or to keep it even more. If it's an elephant, I'm keeping it because I'm not really into just slabbing it. But a good example is I have a slab copy of this, and now I wanted a raw copy. But when I buy these Golden Age books, or when I look, I have spent for the last couple of, let's say, 4 or 5 years collecting religiously some of these titles. I've paid as low as I've showed it to you guys, $1.54, and as high as a stupid amount. High as way too much more than I can say on camera. Just because she might be listening.
Well, I mean, this book I bought on eBay, shipped with tax, everything, $16. It had a spine roll with low grade, and this is a killer Sid Shores war cover, Golden Age, $16. So we're talking 100. This was only $16. This is what most people's pull list. This is a Schomburg robot cover.
That's a needle. That's a famous one. I love that.
Yeah, and it's tough to find. And this had a spine roll, which I fixed to some degree. And I got this on eBay for $200. Now, I think that's a great deal for a Schomburg robot cover. So, I still started buying raw, low grade stuff. I'll still pick them up because I'm not afraid to buy raw books. And people are like, oh, but it could be restored. It could be this, could be that. Most of them aren't. Sometimes you'll get that, but most of them are okay. And, $200 for this, $16 for that. I mean, I still do it. And it's a really good way to get quality stuff for cheap if you just aren't afraid to buy raw books in low grade.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things I do like. I do buy primarily raw books. And on eBay, I do have my want list out there or whatever, my search list. And every once in a while, something rare does show up. So I do have, I've completed the collection from the board. CGC boards for me works better than the eBay because a lot of what I look for just doesn't really get to eBay. And if it's on there, some people have some inflated idea that book is worth that much. I think eBay prices sometimes is so out of whack, but it's just different.
There's a lot of raw, low grade Golden Age on eBay for cheap though. I buy stuff on eBay almost every single day. I'm not one of those eBay and I hate eBay and knocking you. I like
eBay. I like that.
And I'll tell you, for Golden Age, low grade raw Golden Age on eBay, there's like a freaking million results when you search, and there's tons of stuff in all the categories. And there's timelies that come up, quality timelies with Schomburg covers, low grade raw, chunk missing, whatever, detached, Rusty Staples, whatever, for like a couple $100. And then rock solid World War II Schomburgs for a couple $100. That's a budget book, man, for real.
Mm-hmm.
And I think prices will, I feel like some prices are going to drop a little bit lately. It seems like maybe just because I feel like there's more available now and things are sitting longer. And I just anticipate the price to drop a little bit more if that keeps happening,
I will say it's getting to be.
I did low grade, I was looking for things that other people hated. Like, as I got to know the Golden Age collector crowd, a lot of them are like, I would never touch this or that if the book was blah, blah, blah. So like, if I saw something like that on auction, I'd get kind of excited. I'm like, ooh, I'm going to hope no one notices this. And, my competition's going to be small and I'll be able to get this. And it did happen more often back in the day. It seems like not as much anymore for whatever reason, but hopefully it'll go back to a little bit more affordable.
if you want to know what's ridiculous for me collecting elephant covers is the Fox publications of Rula, JoJo. Those are going, and even the thrilling comic, the elephant cover Schoenberg, I paid $63 for in a seven. $63 was a year ago, and that was not even an auction. That was a buy it now. Rick sold a 6.5 for $700. That's stupid. There's a lot of those.
I think if you get to know your dealer,
mine in an hour if I went out there. But anyway, but just in general, you're right. It's ridiculous because there's certain things that are flying up in value. So collecting on a budget, it's all possible. There's wanted. I'm thinking crime novels or anything like that. Those are titles that haven't really had their run, and westerns are probably another one we talked about. The one that's kind of on the up and up, DS already hinted at it, was that Battle Action, and war comics in general, I would say, are on the they were the hot book before this correction. I would say they were the not the hottest, as in they didn't beat pre-code horror. I say they were the advancing the most. Would you agree? Of the golden age genre, they were advancing.
Yeah, I noticed like in middle to end of last year, that second half of last year, they started really. I was seeing people post some proudly. I was seeing a lot of likes on stuff on Instagram. I was seeing a lot of stuff getting sent in Slab, and there was a really, you could see a spark of interest really generating for that stuff. Just this past Sunday, two days ago on Heritage, there was a whole string of slabbed Atom Age war books. And they were moderately high grades. I mean, they were like 6s and 7s and 7.5s, where they were like in the top few highest graded. So that says something too. But they were going for, $300, $400, $500, $600 a pop. That whole string of them on Sunday. That's legit interest in those books. Now, highest graded or next or third highest graded of that book 2 years ago would have only been $100.
Right.
Really, I mean, they're picking up that Battle Action I have is that would be like, if you get a mid grade of that, that's a legit book these days. People will pay up for it.
$100 a book. They're $400 for mid grade, high level atlases and everything else. I'm saying it's ridiculous right now. What I've seen is the gray tone covers, very popular. Russ Heath, even these guys are getting absolutely great. Somebody Brad brought up and Tech 31, both brought up. Yes, the good value I was going to say, Nidors. Nidors are always available, and they are good. And I agree with that. One of my favorite things about looking at what we just talked about with the genre books is if it's on a budget, it's your own budget right there. But we didn't go so $50 to $100, $100 to $500. It's whatever your budget is. But one of the tricks that we've given you ideas of raw. If you're starting out, stick to the raw game. Find out what you like. Let's say you figured out what you like. You find your raw books. You're out there, and now you're sitting there. You want to know your best venues. Raw books are your best venues, but a lot of the auction sites we talk about deal in slab books primarily. Comic Link, Comic Connect, Heritage. Some primarily only, but some have raw books in there too. Don't be afraid of buying those raw books either. I have gotten great grades from those raw books. I have gotten books that they've sold for VG, and I've got a 7.5 on a book. I got an 8.0 on a book that I said, all right, if they say it's a 4.5, I sent it in, I got an 8 on it. So every once in a while you get a tough grader, and I'm like, this thing just needed a little bit of a press and a clean and a bath. That's it, It was a good.
And I mean, you got to be fast, have all your alerts and all this set up.
Yeah.
I like getting to know if you can, if there's a dealer near you or at a show all the time, and you get to see some of the books that just never move. I mean, they'll move it for you maybe on the cheap. Here's an example of one I got on eBay for like, I don't know, $50 or something.
Yeah, nice.
I mean, it's really beat up, but like, you could just get lucky. And I like to look for the auctions.
There was a 0.5 Action 13. I almost
true auctions. There's a guy, Blizzard, I think is his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does Sundays. He loves doing like starting it off at a quarter or whatever, and you know,
Yep.
you can get, and I feel like as time goes on and maybe the market slows down a little bit, there will be less flippers. And I think if it's less flipping, it's better chance for, you know, a true bargain, because, you know, you'll just have collectors trying to fill their stuff versus like someone trying to make a buck.
Mm-hmm.
DS.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's exactly what I do. I try to make. But I'm not going after stuff that it's available to everybody, and if you put the time in and search and aggressively bid and know what you're going after and be able to sort of. I'm not a professional grader. I'm like slightly above average at grading, but to be able to ballpark a grade at a quick look, just to look at a book on eBay and ballpark the grade quick and know what you think it's worth. And you also got to get a feel for Golden Age, because the GPA is pretty worthless when it comes to Golden Age.
Absolutely.
You just got to sort of be familiar. So for a while, you should just research, watch, learn, pick up some low grade stuff here and there until you feel comfortable with the market, because it's totally different than other markets. You can't just look up spot prices on stuff. It doesn't exist.
Absolutely.
You know, there might not have been a sale in any grade for 2 years. It doesn't help you.
And one of the things we just brought up here is where you get your books. We talked about online, guys that have all auctions there, and you know, the Instagram world and the eBay world and the comic auctions, all online. That's all virtual. But I tend to think the best bargains you can ever get on Golden Age cons are at small little cons, hotel cons that you have in your little neighborhoods. Wherever you live, you can probably look it up within a couple of towns over, or cities over. You can find somebody who's rented out some conference room at a hotel with a bunch of short boxes, long boxes, and a bunch of stuff is there. You will find bargains at those places like you wouldn't believe, whether it be.
Depends.
I mean, well, I'm saying you get there, you can. I'm not saying.
There's a thing that happens in my neck of the woods. So there's this pretty smart guy who owns a little comic shop, but he's survived this whole time because he's like super eBay savvy. Everything's on eBay, and he's been, you know, he got a new shop, and it was all because he was very smart. But he goes to cons, every little tiny con. He's always one of the first there, and he will buy just straight up almost a full wall of other dealers' stuff before the show even opens. And it kind of sucks. But
it does. Know, but that's
sometimes I feel like that can, you know, he can't be everywhere at once, but
right,
it's something that kind of blows around here, and I think that just has to go further to get, you know.
I have a few shops here that they're not interested in buying the Golden Age stuff because they don't think they can move it to other people. Who are they going to call other than me and my friends, you know? So a lot of times I get calls on that. I haven't gotten calls in a few years about it. However, I did see at a con a guy walk in with a box and a list of what he had in the list.
That's awesome.
I noticed everybody walk around with that list. And what we've decided to do, and this is pretty cool, all these hotel cons, what they're doing, the Midwestern ones at least, all they're going to get together, and you can send them your want lists. And they will remember your cities, and they're going to put you in a category. And it'd say, in Omaha, you want to bring Jungles and Jumble for this guy. This guy wants Timelies. This guy wants Pre-Code Horror. This guy loves TNA. This guy really likes TNA. You know, you never know who it is. So, but it's really cool that they're doing this now. But I like those deals because at those cons we have gotten everything from Pre-Code Horror books for under $100, and I mean Witch's Tales and Beware and a few books like that, and Journey into Fear. To LB Cole covers, to whatever. I mean, you never know what you're going to get. Again, these are beat up books. These are not going to be, don't expect to find an Action One there, or even a book that doesn't smell like a urine. They all smell like pee. They all smell like cat pee. I don't know why. All these old books, but they're good. You can find rarities and things you wouldn't be able to find. But I also found some good stuff there. That's where I found that LB Cole, and I found, you know, Buscema's one of his masterpieces here, and I found that Tarzan, which I mean, I don't know. It's not that easy. What wasn't easy for me to find.
Well, anybody who's into pre-code horror or just getting started in Golden Age and they're like me and horror does it for them and that's what they want, I have 3 categories you can look for on a budget, cheap, affordable, awesome stuff. And 3 categories are Harvey publication, pre-code horror, Atlas, and EC. EC is like the Cadillac of pre-code horror, but there's so many out there in such good grades. You can pick up. I stopped flipping ECs because I can't sell them. I can't make a profit on them because nobody buys them because they're just, if you can buy 4.0, 5.0 copies slabbed of EC books for $150. Honestly, not all of them, but if you keep your eye out, they come up routinely and nobody bids on them. They go for cheap, and I don't even flip it anymore. I had a 3.0 Haunt of Fear with a zombie popping, a Haunt of Fear 9, early one too. The zombie popping up out of the ground. Jack Davis cover, killer. It was a 3.0, and I put it on auction. I think I only ended up getting like $100 out of it or something. It was ridiculous. So I stopped it. If you're trying to pick up affordable stuff, Atlas, or Harvey, and EC, low grade of those, PCH, cheap and plentiful.
And when you get into Atlas, just a little heads up on Atlas. Atlas, he's right. ECs are very reasonable, and Atlases are reasonable. Atlases are catching a little heat, especially the Journey into Fear, the Journey into Mysteries, the Unknown Worlds. I've seen a lot of the key books go for a lot higher recently, but that doesn't mean you can't get great things. Spellbounds are out there. Carl Burgess covers, Saul Brodsky covers, Joe Manili's, Russ Heath, all that stuff. If you're interested in the covers and the pre-code horror, the best thing about those is you might want to look on the interior too, because a lot of the interior art is going to be your Bill Everett, your Dick Ayers, you never know what you're going to get in some of these. So Atlas, I would say, is probably up there as far as great idea to collect. If you're interested in Golden Age, you can collect some of your favorite artists of the Silver Age are in the Golden Age as well. And funny thing is, for Timely, they're also Atlas. Atlas also has a lot of the Timely writers and artists that are in there as well. But you can also get some. I was gonna say one of the. I wouldn't know if you would call them Golden Age, but it's the Kirby Simon stuff from Charlton is reasonable. The war covers, would you agree? I would say that is very reasonable. Of great artwork, great. I don't know about the stories. I never read one. I'm never going to pretend I ever read one, but I've never read any of those. But great art are those Charlton Kirby Simon works. I'm trying to think of a few other things that come.
I do think the floor has risen.
Yeah, there used to be other categories I could tell you,
and now it's like, something someone might care about. Get Golden Age, just $100.
Yeah, exactly.
It didn't used to be that way. It used to be pretty cheap.
Yeah, you should get classics. Other than classics right now. Classics, by the way, those yellow classic books that are out there are a few that are pretty good. The Lorna Doone is a Matt Baker, right? Was it number 26? And there's about as many Spawn ones as there is that Matt Baker book, the Lorna Doone classic. But those classic books, if you're interested just for the old book factor, you can find about those in any antique shop anyway.
Here's a couple. I think these are really top-notch works of art for pretty cheap. They're both Atlas, Uncanny Tales. I just love this one. It's just nice. Classic, awesome cover. And I got a nice copy of this.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really worried about it because it's not super expensive. You can find a lower grade of this for even cheaper. But this is relatively cheap, and
it's better than a 4.
Huh?
That looks way better than 4 or 5.
Yeah, it's got some wear on the spine, but the colors on this thing are phenomenal. So this is a cheap one. That's an Atlas. Here's one that's even cheaper than that.
Yeah, I was going to show mine. That's about 100.
And this one's a 5.5, and I have this. I got this for, I don't know, like $200, I think. And I'll bet you if I put this on eBay at $350, nobody would buy it. It would sit there forever. So I'm saying that's, and this is a 5.5 of a book from 1952. So yeah, Atlas is affordable, and if you up your budget a little bit, you can get really good grades of cool stuff for a couple $100.
I was going to say, if you want to show that again, I was going to show this one. This is another example of a book that is about in between 100 and 200 bucks, maybe. Yeah. Now, this is a very early Stan Lee writing horror book. This is 1952. I think Spellbound 3 is the first horror he did. But this is, I mean, Saul Brodsky, it's a who's who of what the names are on there. If you want to know, it's Bill Everett, Joe Maneely, Dick Ayers, Saul Brodsky, and Stan Lee. So there you go. And you got the shadow of the skeleton right there. Killer cover. I absolutely love this. The action on it, and just a great book. And white pages. Go figure.
Nice.
Yeah. It says tape on interior cover. Sorry, subject today, but I get it. But it says right here, tape on interior cover. It's a 3.5, whatever. I bought it off the boards for a couple of. I think it was like $100 or something.
Yeah, and you bought it. Did you buy it raw or slabbed?
Slabbed.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But if you go out and find these same books that we're showing in raw condition, they're way cheaper even than that.
Yeah, they're $40-$50 at that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the Atlas stuff in low grade raw you can find cheap all the time, and they're really, really good works of art. I mean, these are.
I think these are slowly climbing up though, because I've been seeing a lot more on the bigger auction sites go for higher money recently, especially that I've seen werewolf covers and vampire covers. A lot of I see the advertising more. And not just for pedigrees. I see them not just putting the title of the book, but they're adding names of not just the artist, the cover artist, but some of the interior artists now. So they're advertising more of the Atlas books. I think they're selling more of the who else is in the book. I've noticed that's something that I've always brought up with people about Atlas is if you're really into Silver Age, it's very easy for you to collect. If you're into Silver Age artists, it's very easy for you to get into Atlas. It's the same art.
I've also noticed, like I've had a lot of good luck with bargains on the CGC forums. And I think part of that is when you find a seller that had his collection at least like 10 years, they might know that they could get more, but since they bought it so cheap, they're willing to just move it quickly and not like try to get the best price. Whereas like a lot of people who have gotten in the golden age, say in the past 5 years, and have bought stuff, and then they're trying to sell it now for whatever reason, not necessarily they're flipping, but they bought in at a higher price. So the prices aren't as, so if you could find some of these old collectors that, are just trying to weed out some of their stuff, people are willing to do some deals on.
I do recommend dealers are better than individuals. I mean, I could always get more from Teddy right now, Bedrock has got that coverless Golden Age book stuff on actions and adventures and on the CGC boards. And while some people we're joking with him, but we think it's phenomenal that he's doing this. I mean, you're getting Golden Age books for $10, $20, $30, $40 that are, I mean, there's a More Fun, what was there, a More Fun 75, there was some great books in there that just coverless, and he just put on there, just CGC them, some are missing, I mean, but it's a great way to do it, and that's what I thought it was a great idea.
I bet he'd be willing to bargain,
Oh, they're all willing, yeah. Dealers are very, when you see somebody say my price is XX firm, we understand why it's firm. I get it. It's what you got in it or whatever it is. Be firm. That's up to you. If you're willing to be more negotiable on there, that's helps me in a different way. But sometimes the firm prices are better than you think. But you deal with what you got. And dealers, I noticed dealers like the ones that have shops or big time at cons are always more flexible than the ones that deal in the high end one big book, and I mean the big books alone. I'm literally $35,000 apart on a book right now with a guy. I'm not buying it for someone. I'm just negotiating it, but it's just $30,000 difference on a book. That's how crazy I think some dealers are.
Well, when it comes to pre-code horror, which is my main area of passion in the Golden Age, and I don't go to a lot of cons, but I'm familiar with, the dealers who have lots of like long boxes you can dig through of pre-code horror books. They're low grade, raw stuff in their boxes you can dig through at cons. But when they pick these up, generally what they do is they pick up an entire lot of beat Golden Age books, and they don't pay much for them, and they just want to move them. You can wheel and deal. You can grab out 5 or 6 of them and get a killer deal on some cool low-grade stuff because they have virtually nothing into these, and they want to move them. They're not wall books. They're not in high condition, and they're just sort of, run-of-the-mill, which is still cool stuff.
Run fillers are important.
Through the Golden Age, and you can get killer deals. You can buy a whole bunch and bundle them together, and they don't have a lot into those books. It's not like superhero movies. I feel like they have more into. They'll buy boxes, from an attic of Golden Age books that are beat, and they're just throwing them in and trying to get rid of them. So you can get good deals on low grade raw stuff from some of these big dealers.
I was telling the story this weekend to a guy where I was lucky enough to go when my local shop calls me, says the guy's come in with some golds you want in. 90% of the time it's Charles Biro Crime and Punishments. It's a bunch of stuff like that, Liv Gleason stuff. But there's always good stuff here and there. A lot of painted covers, Dale Evans and Lone Rangers, and you're looking for the Chuck Connors number 10, but it's not there. The Rifleman, but it's not there. I was lucky enough one time to get a whole run of Jungle books, and I literally went through there, and it was a great day. And it was actually Dale who had it, who said he got this whole thing in Fiction House. And I went through and pulled out, and I probably paid no more an average price of like $30 to $40 a book. But I bought 20 of them, And it wasn't just the elephants. I got a lot of good girl art from my friend who really liked Sheena or this, that. It was just working out that they weren't in the great condition. They're not wall books like DS is telling you. This is con people. These aren't stuff that are going to make them, people are going to turn their heads when they walk by your booth, and because you got a nice, Jungle 44 or whatever on there. But I was able to score a lot of stuff that way. So I think that's a great way to do it. And I think, when you go into cons and you're doing it live buying's fun, online's buying fun. Get your local cons. Instagram is good. Check out everybody's auctions. There's YouTube auctions. There's Facebook auctions. I've seen a few Golden Age books on there. But, if you're collecting on a budget, it's pretty much your own budget, what you want to do. But we gave you a few ideas tonight. What about you?
Message people on, I've had this where I would, I'm like, hey, I don't want to insult you or anything, but if, I've noticed you had this book for sale. If it ever comes down to X amount, just let me know.
Mm-hmm.
And you never know. It might be a month later, but they'll remember. I mean, believe me, when you're selling stuff, you remember every little offer you get.
Yeah. So ready to sell something, I need some money for something else. Instagram, I'll go to my messages and I'll be like, who the hell was it that wanted that book or asked about it? And I'll scroll through and it'll take me a half hour to find who it was that asked me about it a month ago. But it's worth it. I'll find them like, hey, so do you want to do a deal on this? Yeah, definitely.
Someone's not asleep, but he wanted to come by. So, why are you? Yep.
Special guest.
Yep, special guest is my son Charles, who is a big fan of Superman.
Yes.
He likes Superman. But it's time for him to go to bed. All right. Thanks, honey. He's soaking wet. Not pee, it's water. I know he's got a bottle of water with him, so he's got diapers on. Anyway, so yeah. That's his dinosaur. Okay. Where were we? So, oh yeah. Well, I've lost my train of thought. Happens.
So, when you first get into Golden Age and you're buying raws and stuff,
right.
I think this happens in all eras, but especially in Golden Age. It's inevitable that your tastes will change. So it's almost a good idea to not put a lot into it early, because you'll notice your taste will change very quickly when you get into Golden Age, because there's so much stuff you didn't even realize was out there. But once you get into it, you start going off in all sorts of directions until you really find what really drives you. And then you can sell off stuff that you got earlier. You don't want to start off buying $500,000 books and slabs. Like them. I mean, pick and choose, buy some low grade stuff, dip your feet in a lot of different areas, and then later on you'll know for sure. You'll know when you get to that point where you want to put a lot of money into a good Grail slab Golden Age. You'll know when the time is right because it'll be a book that you're familiar with yourself in Golden Age. You know for sure you want that. But to drop a lot of money early, I've done that, and you kind of overpay for something that's not as good as you thought it was for you or other people, and it's tough to move Golden Age books. It's not easy to move slabs. People think it's easy to sell slabs or Golden Age because the prices are high. It's hard, man. Stuff sits forever on Golden Age stuff. It's not easy to sell Golden Age slabs. So you don't want to get stuck with a bunch of high-end stuff that you're not into anymore. So you sort of work your way up to it. That's what I did anyway, and I know what I like now, so I don't mind dropping money on it.
Yep. You should shout out the chat, JD. There's some new people I haven't.
Yeah, I'm going to shout out the chat. That's exactly what I wanted. I was going to do.
Nice things.
Yes.
It must be really
good. Benjamin Check, I just want to give a shout out to DS for dropping massive knowledge bombs to Pre-Code Horror and Golden Age Newbie and help me buy my first LB Cole. Thanks, brother. From Sanctum Forum Comics. Very cool. And of course, it was an LB Cole because it was DS Comics right there. Captain Comics, very cool. Nice having you here. Tech 31, we got you here. Brad. Very good. And they would took this whole their Church Action 1 in Allentown Tech 27. Oh, hello, look at this. Oh boy. I'd rather have them smell like this. Yeah, that's true. Some cigars than pee. Yeah, I just say all books smell like pee. Kids smell like pee too. Spellbound 3 for his Go Collect giveaway. Oh, Spellbound 3. Yeah, I like Spellbound. It was just an example of a raw book. Yeah, you heard that. That's why I pulled that out. Somebody expo one. Jambo, great having you here, and Chris Barrett, kindness right there.
Mac Daddy.
Gretzky brought up Superman. Yeah. Hey, I meant to ask you guys this one. The Action Comic 1000 that came out? Did you see the Golden Age version or the 30s version? Those are the ones that didn't sell according to every shop I spoke to. That's the only one I liked. I'm sorry, it's just knocking the over
one.
I didn't. Yeah, it was kind of like him with the battleship. In a way, but it's much more modernized in a way. But it's just a cool. But it's the old school logo. It's got everything. It's just.
I like the Alex Ross Detective 1000, but that's expensive.
Yeah, I didn't go variant, right? Go crazy.
Yeah,
I just went with the what do they call them? The 30s, 40s, 50s. Those are the only ones I would think. I'm not buying.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother rabbit hole for other people right there. Variants. So.
Yeah. I would recommend, though, for people getting into Golden Age, a lot of people buy coverless stuff. I would recommend not buying coverless to start out because for me, I think this is going to apply to a lot of people. When you get in, it's a good price. You want the book. You want to be able to say you own it. It's different when you're buying a bronze key because it's more of a historical what's in the pages. I finally own that Hulk 181. The cover is, depending on who you ask, whatever. But Golden Age, you want to get that cover list, and then you get it, and you're like, now I have it. And you look at it, and it's like, there's no cover. Golden Age, the cover is primary on most of that stuff. So I would stay away from coverless stuff initially. But there are some people that do it, and they get printed out covers or facsimile covers to put on it. And then you have the book with the fake cover. That's not a bad idea.
Said that I don't mind. Yeah, you could get high quality reprinted covers done today.
But there's nothing worse than buying a book that frustrates you more than if you didn't even have it. Every time you look at it, you're annoyed by that one stain or that one piece missing or that cover missing or something. And every time you look at it, you cringe and you're like, it's almost, that's why low grade is better than no grade doesn't always apply for me. Sometimes I'd rather not have it than have one that.
That's funny.
Tech 31, I've been talking to him ever since I first started Golden Age, and he's always said a lot of interesting things that didn't make much sense to me at the time, but later it did. Like, I had this thing there was a few books where I was like, I need this. And I was getting so frustrated because there were so few available. And I felt like dealers were monopolizing, and like everyone was out to get me. And like I finally got some of these books, and then I was kind of like, eh. And he's like, yeah, sometimes you have to just get one and to get it out of your system, and maybe you have to pay a little more, but you got it, and maybe you keep it and you love it, but sometimes it's just this thing, like it's like the whale, the Ahab and the whale. You just want this thing, and I don't know how that relates to budget collecting, but I just
that though, where there's a grail I want, and I just jump at the first one that comes up or that I can afford because it's a grail for me, and then I get it, and I did that with starting Terror Tales 11, the LB Cole red spider cover. I bought one when I had a big stain on the front. It was pretty bad. It was a 2.0, and it just never fully satisfied me that I ended up selling it. And I don't even own a copy right now, but I'm sort of happier with my Starling 11 now that I don't own one, because now I own the possibilities of all these other good ones out there, and I will get a nice one. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing worse than buying a grail, putting money out, getting it, and then being frustrated with it's not what you want. So
sometimes I'm like, I had that at one point, and that's kind of okay. Like, I can always try to get it again, but I don't have that like burning. Some of these books are so rare. You just, the pull is just.
Well, here's
motivation. If you already have one to upgrade, people are like, oh, you can upgrade it. For me, once I get it, it saps my motivation to upgrade because I'm only half looking for it now because I already have one, but it's not good enough. And it's just, once you cut it loose, you're now aggressively looking for it and you're fully motivated. That's how I feel about it.
I've had it where I've wanted, I had one. I wanted to get a better one. I let it loose. And then I was kind of like, hey, I'm okay with not having this for some reason. Like, I don't know. It was weird.
I find that when, like, if there's like the Voodoo 11 is a good example. I will go to a con with X amount of dollars for one book alone only. And if it's there, it's reserved for that book. And every once in a while you get ridiculously like, okay, I'll take it. But my book now that's like that, I have not known anybody to see one in 2 years and only have known one to trade in the last 6. Even the picture that you got, someone says, hey, he has this on his wall. He said that picture was from 2 years ago. He hasn't seen that book since. It was hysterical. And it's, the Adventure 34, it's just impossible to find. So, I mean, if I see one, I know I've got everybody on the hunt, look for one, but I want to be the one to find it. That's the most fun. I said, if you find it, keep it to yourself. So, unless it's on the CGC boards, because then they're like, yeah. But
yeah, I feel like there's a delicate balance in GA collecting between patience and being quick on the trigger.
Right.
Yeah. It's really tough.
It's just tough sometimes. Because then you're sitting there, you're like, because there's no reason for me to buy a second copy. And why? Because I wanted to read the story inside, and it was worth it, though. The artwork, wait till you see the next two, because now I'm not buying them slabbed anymore. Now I'm buying them because the artwork inside. I bought some raw copies of Wanteds off the CGC boards because I want them raw now.
Yeah, you're going to be that guy in 10 years that posts on the CGC board his picture of 35 copies of Wanted, and nobody can find one.
Yeah.
You don't want to sell on it.
Yeah. Except
Catman.
Yeah, Catman.
Yeah. Brick Bradford 6.
There's a Marvel Mystery number 40 hoarder too with the Zeppelin. There's someone who has 12 of them.
Gator had a bunch of. Was always that guy. Rick. By the way, did you see he's opening up a new like site or something? New Instagram something or? Yeah, I was gonna say he's on Instagram now. But
I kind of regret not buying this book the other night. I think it was Heritage Sunday night auction. It was a brick 6 in an 8.0, like off-white to white.
How much?
I mean, it might have gone higher, but it sold for 21. That included the buyer's premium. And I'm like, now thinking back, I'm like, man, 21 for that. I think an 8.5 just sold for 35.
See, here's the thing with that book.
Copy too.
You're right. An 8.0 today, 2,100 is a fair price or whatever, or cheap. But 2 years ago, if that book was $1,000, I'd do it.
But you know why I didn't buy it? I was iffy. I almost did. You know, I might have got outbid. You know, on Heritage, you click it and it just says you're outbid. I might have clicked the button times and it just kept coming up. But it sold for 21. But I have a 4.5, and I was like, man, do I really want to spend this on? I already have it in a 4.5, and
happens to me when I want to upgrade. I always look at any of my major silver keys that I want to upgrade. I look at my current copy. I'm like, what do you think I can get for this now if I get that? I'm like, let me wait. It's still too high. Funny thing is, I don't want to spend more for the higher grade, but I want to get as much out of my grade as I can. Like,
yeah, right. Well, I would probably have sold the lower grade, but I think a 8.5 just recently sold, like in the last couple of weeks, for 3,500.
Right.
The one on Comic Link, there's an 8.5. Neither one of those look as good as this 8.0. If I didn't have my 4.5, I would have went after that. But it had just enough motivation to go after it, and I think I passed up on what would have been a good deal on that book. Yeah, I don't know. There was like 7 books I was looking for this weekend, and that was the only one that was like ballpark value buy, and I didn't do it. And I regret that. I regret it today. Yeah.
Yeah. Next week we're definitely going to talk about our Comic Link auctions because there'll be much more there. I just wanted to shout out the one book in there. There is some great Action Comics in there, that auction, as well as the 2 Captain America ones, which are probably the most important 2 Captain America ones to sell because they are 2 of the same, pretty much within the almost exact identical books, different grades, but different paper quality. But let's see where these things go because I think it's rare. And to have 2 of major keys like that in the same auction with so close grades. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's bizarre, and I kind of think that's a telling sign of how many of these things are available now. So just going to close the show with that. Draw your own conclusions. I have my own in my head. But I'm going to be keeping a very close eye as a Golden Age collector on what happens when these auctions coming up, when I see these big books start being offered more often. Now, Cap is definitely the most common of all of the big books, but it's just something to keep an eye on. Anybody want to close out anything?
I'm good. Thanks for stopping by, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Yes, we enjoyed the show.
On my channel, if anybody wants to check those out, and then I've got that Blue Ribbon coming back, so it's a legit rare GA book, and when that comes back, it's already been shipped out to me. I'll show that on my channel, and I'll definitely have that for next week to show.
Next week, I'm going to be. It's not Golden Age, but it's still Bernie Wrightson, so there'll be some Bernie Wright stuff. There is some Golden Age book coming with the Bernie Wrightson as a bonus. The guy had a book as well, so
I look forward to that.
It'll be fun. So have a good one, everybody. Once again, thank you for being a friend. Have a fun time, everybody. I'm trying to figure out
your budget collecting.
Oh, yeah. Take care, everybody. Peace. Have a good one.